Do you mind spoilers?
I don't mind spoilers, especially with this much buildup. I've got to know who this very key player in the X-Men universe is.
Sienna Blaze.
Sienna Blaze?
Sienna Blaze. Back, baby, after years of me writing letters to the Marvel editorial and saying, hey, I have every Sienna Blaze appearance. This would be a major boost to your bottom line because I would buy a copy of any book that she's in. So you could put her in the background and everything. I would buy, because this is who I'm named after.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's so nuts.
And so obviously, Kevin Feige wants to be comic accurate, wants kind of that, like, that authenticity to be brought to the role. And I do have short hair. I have dabbled with the idea of going blonde, like when I was Ken.
When you were Ken, you were thinking about it.
And I asked Allison, my partner, I said, well, what, could I dye it? Like, well, would you leave me? And she said yes, so I didn't. But yeah, it was Rogue. My dad pitched just Rogue. And I am glad, for bullying reasons in middle school, that my mom vetoed that one.
Okay.
So Sienna was kind of like, he was like, it's a city in Italy. And afterwards he was like, haha, she's a comic book character.
Snuck that one in there.
But she's like a villain. She's terrible.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Isn't Sienna not actually a good...
No. Like, in her whole, like, early, like, role in the X-Men, she's a mutant. And she's, like, part of this game that's, like, trying to kill members of the X-Men for, like, points for sport. So, like, this awesome X-Men Unlimited 1, I think, is when she's trying to single-handedly take on. She almost gets him. I think she should have. Cyclops, Storm, and Professor X. But there's some really good Sienna Blaze moments in here. She's in like 3 panels. So that one where she says her name.
So on this episode of Revisiting Sienna's Childhood,
she says, pew pew Rambo, and then she explains her powers. I'm tapped into the Earth's electromagnetic field. There's no limit to what I can pull off. Real bad for the planet. This is my audition tape, by the way. Real bad for the planet. Real fun for me. Because she doesn't care. Because her powers could destabilize the entire electromagnetic field. And she's like, whatever. I'm all about having fun, scoring points, probably scoring chicks with that haircut. I don't know. In my mind. No, she's actually canonically very straight.
I feel like this could go... we could really bring this back to, like, nature versus nurture research, because, like, being named after an X-Men villain, like, did that, growing up with that.
And she's gonna be in the next one, because, again, spoiler alert, Rogue, I think you've had enough fun, sugar. And Sienna's like, you want my powers? Good luck controlling them, because it's hard to control. So... I mean, that's it. I mean, I think we should do the whole episode, kind of break. Again, those were the 4 panels she was in.
Right.
But we can maybe go more in depth.
So this episode, you want this entire podcast episode to sort of break down Sienna Blaze.
And then, in 2 or 3 weeks when the next one comes out, then we can talk about, we could see Rogue. How can Rogue handle the powers? Probably not. Because only Sienna could.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but our producer says no.
Okay.
We have other topics to discuss, even though this was very exciting.
If you buy this at Ultimate, I will sign it for a small fee.
And maybe sometime soon we'll have a Sienna Blaze cosplay from Sienna Blaze.
Listen, I've thought about it.
You should do it.
If you could make me that, I'd wear it.
Okay, all right.
And then, that would really also further kind of sell me on joining the MCU, which is, everyone's dream.
Yeah.
But again, who you gonna hire someone not named Sienna? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
It's a pretty rare name, so. But yeah, so I actually do have all of her appearances as a kid when I was collecting. This was before, I mean, I'm not pre-internet, I'm not that old, but like before like comic databases and stuff were really built out. I feel like as a little kid I was going into comic shops and being like, do you have any Sienna Blaze? A character who has like 86 total appearances, total minor character, and people being like, what are you talking about? I'm like, can you show me where the Sienna Blaze section is? They're like, there's no Sienna Blaze.
There's nothing.
There's not a section.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But it was really fun. That was like one of my first back issue hunts, was trying to put together all her appearances, trying to figure out what all her appearances were, and then like they were all dollar books. It's all 90s X-Men and like Malibu Exile stuff. So it was really fun. So that kind of I feel like helped kind of kick off my like collector mentality. Because I did baseball cards as a kid, and that was one of my first comic hunts. Yeah. And now I always have a hunt. I always got something I'm trying to put together. Right now I'm working on all of the Romita Senior Spider-Man run. Oh. But anyway, so I do like to collect, and that's also how I like to read. I like to read my books in singles. Okay. So I guess we wanted to talk on this episode a little bit about how to collect, because I noticed someone mentioned that they had never heard the word trade waiting, and they learned that from our last episode. Really? Yeah, they had never heard the term, which is when a book is coming out in singles and you're like, I'm gonna just wait till it's released one graphic novel and I'll read it that way. Yeah. How do you prefer, like, and same thing with like shows? Yeah. Like, how do you watch and how do you read?
I am most definitely a binge watching type of person. Yeah. Like, I mean, of course, there are new shows that I've watched that are, since they're so new, you have to sort of wait. But like, I am one of those people. You leave me on a cliffhanger.
Can't do it.
I gotta do more. Yeah. So when it comes to like reading, comics, watching shows, sometimes if I'm strong enough, I will just wait so that I can just go through the whole story.
See, yeah. So I don't know if it's just how I grew up, but also, obviously as a comic book retailer, selling the comics as single issues is super important for like bottom line.
Absolutely.
Some stores just don't really have a big focus on new comics the way we do, but we do have a big focus on them. And I feel like as a retailer, I see the pros, because some books I do wish, like, oh God, especially like a good example, Saga, incredible book. Yeah. And like, I know why it takes so long to make, but it can be rough waiting one issue a month, and then there's couple months time off for the next one, and it's hard to remember what you read.
Exactly. That's my other thing, is I am also guilty of, like, if I'm going one by one, something will happen, life will happen. Yeah. And I will get off of reading something, and then when I come back, I'm like, wait a second,
I need to reread
what was happening.
Yeah, that can happen to me too sometimes, because I do read a lot, and especially reading a lot of more singles now for the podcast, that I typically, I'm reading different books than I normally would. That can I find myself being like, wait, I'm getting mixed up. Like, I need to go back and reread. But as a retailer, one, helps keep the shops, keeps us afloat. Having a pull list and having that weekly customer coming in helps pay for everything, right?
Absolutely.
And brings people into the store every week where they might also pick something else up. They're picking up their pull, and maybe they also see graphic novel that came out to tack onto their purchase. So it's really awesome having, like, a lot of stores don't have that. Retail stores, you don't get those repeat, like, customers like once a week. Like, right. Like, what other store would you go once a week? Like, you're not going to Dick's Sporting Goods once. Maybe you are.
maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe. We won't judge. If that's your thing.
You need like a new little golf tee, maybe once a week.
Once a week. New baseball. Once a week,
maybe.
You're just
hitting homers, dingers,
home runs,
and you can't find the ball. Once a week.
Well, Dick's Sporting Goods it is.
But also I really like the community that it's able to kind of build. Like, like when I was working at the shop and having my regulars who I would see at the same time, like Wednesday morning, like 8 a.m. when we open, like clockwork, the same guys would be there, and that's kind of fun too. I feel like as a customer can be as well. Like, of just that, like, I don't know, it's just like such a nice interaction and like part of your week. Like, oh, that's something to look forward to. I'm going to the comic shop.
Absolutely.
On New Comic Book Day.
I definitely see the appeal in it, and I think that it is, like you said, it's a really good community building situation, because you've got your local comic book shop. You get to know the staff that you go, in and see, and it's more just you can discuss the excitement for whatever you're going in to read, because the staff is going to be excited about it too. So in like a world where everyone's like, ugh, comics, or, not that everybody's doing that, but if that's your life, you can go into the comic book shop and you can bank on, the employees being just as excited as you are.
Right. You can be like, what happened? I'm so excited about this. There's a lot of fun interactions you can have. And then the other part is price. Usually reading and trade is cheaper. Yeah. So, I feel like it's all just about how you like to read. Like you said, like and I think it takes a while to get used to reading in singles, because it was like a learning curve for me, because I went through a phase where I was just reading graphic novels because I was reading my comics from my library. So then when I went to college and started my pull list, it was like, oh God, I can't wait I have to wait a whole month.
Yeah.
But part of the reason we're talking about this is because this week for new releases, there's like a lot of issue number 2s or like reprints of books that are like really good jumping on points. Or like last week where they reprinted every single issue of Transformers, even though the trade is coming out. It's kind of interesting that like you could just read the trade and catch up on Transformers 1 through 6, but they're still giving the option if you want to buy every single issue.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really nice.
First one we were going to talk about was Man's Best, number 1, which I'm smiling about because we both really dug this one.
Yes, it was really cute. I liked it a lot. Homeward Bound vibes.
Yes.
In space.
Yes. So this is from Boom Studios, and it's written by Pornsick Pitchitchote, and with the artist Jesse Lonergan. And man, there's a lot to like about this book. The elevator pitch is fun, like you said. Homeward Bound, kind of set in space. So you're on the spaceship traveling to this kind of mysterious new world. And the doctor, or is it doctor aboard?
Yeah.
She brings her emotional support animals.
Right, yeah. Which I thought was really cute. And the crew sort of like, chuckles about it. They're like, this is kind of lame. But she's actually training them to be in combat and like help the crew if anything happens.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this, like there's like two sides of the story, right? So like she brought her like emotional support animals or whatever because she's going on this long trip. She wants her cats. She's got a cat and 2 dogs. And she gets them these like tricked out mech suits and stuff, and like it opens with them doing this kind of like, it's very like X-Men, like in the danger room.
Yep.
It's like a fake combat situation. But the animals are taking it very seriously, and she's almost like they're kind of playing.
Yeah. She's like, I'm just keeping them busy.
Yeah. And they're like, but they're taking like, they're like patrolling.
Yeah.
And they're like, the door that says do not enter, they're like guarding it and make sure no one gets close.
Right.
And there's like some other crew members who like jokingly try to get close and then like get chased down by the crew.
No entry whatsoever. And it's twist of events. Something mysterious happens, and the no touch that's what the animals call it. The no touch. Gets taken away, and they're on this like alien planet.
Yeah, they like crash land, so they can't find the captain of the ship or their owner.
Yep.
And so they're like, well, we need to go rescue them, and they have their cute little mech suits. So they're going off on this alien planet thinking, they've been training for this. They need to find their owner, kind of like Homeward Bound, where like they get left at their family friends. They think that they have to go find their family.
Yeah.
It's basically the pitch here, but they've got cat dog mech suits, and they are like battling these robots and stuff.
It's super cute, and you have the power dynamic between the 2 dogs and 1 cat.
Yes.
And I loved that they were supposed to be all named after the 3 Musketeers. I caught on to that at first. Yes. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then the 3rd dog,
the one who's like most serious, he's like the Raphael in the Turtles, where he's like, I should be leader, man. I'm tough. I've got the cannon on my back. Like, put me in, coach. Why is the cat in charge?
Right.
But yes, he's Lovey. Because she's like, he's just so cute and loving.
And he's just, like, and it's so funny because he is probably the grumpiest dog.
Right.
And he's like,
and distrustful of the owner too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And she's just like, but he's just so lovely. And he's just like, I hate you.
So it does, it was very cute, but it also has those kind of action movie vibes where like you have the archetypes in the dogs, right?
Yes.
Like you have the cat who's kind of like trying to pull them all together and be a cohesive unit and lead them on this mission, and you have the kind of like grumpy guy who thinks he can do better, thinks he knows better, who's kind of like your foil. Then you have like the golden, obviously Golden's cute and good. That's their person. I mean,
golden retriever baby. The golden retriever is basically the cheerleader.
Very sweet. Yeah. So I love the art in this too. I thought the art was great. I think Jesse's done another book for Image that was this really big kind of oversized format. And I loved his stuff. So it was really cool to see him do Man's Best. And one, just the animals are super cute, but also like, I don't know, he tells the action well. It's very fun.
Definitely.
So a really fun pitch, kind of just give it a go, check it out. Written well, art good.
Art good.
Professional opinion right here.
Put quotations on either side.
That's why people come to this podcast.
Art good. Sienna Blaze.
Yeah, they want the like deep cut information that only we can provide.
Right.
Art good.
So
so I really dug that one. That was one of my favorites. But you had a different favorite one, I think.
Yes.
You really dug. So this week, Helen of Windhorn #2 comes out.
Yes.
For Dark Horse Publications, and it's written by Tom King, who I love. I've read like all his superhero stuff. And art by Bilquis Evely. And these two worked on the Supergirl book. That came out a year ago. Super popular enough for like James Gunn to recommend it to prep for his Supergirl movie. So they're back together doing Helen of Windhorn. And since you dug it, I'm going to let you.
Yeah, Sword and Sorcery, which as soon as you say that as the summary, you got me. I'm intrigued. But this is really, really fun, sort of dark fantasy vibe. The first issue is told from the perspective of the governess, who was hired by this incredibly rich
writer.
Yeah. And she is sent off to find and collect the newly orphaned granddaughter of this writer.
Yeah.
And she's like 16 years old, and the governess, who's this very like proper woman, is sent to hunt her down, and she's like trying to find her, and they're like, well, have you checked the jail? And she's like, what?
Or the bar.
Yeah, and then they're like, have you gone to the bar? And she's like, this girl is only 16. What are you talking about? And then like she finally meets this girl, and she's like a lush. She just like drinks her life away.
In pants too, because this is like late 30s, early 40s, right?
Yes.
So she's in pants. So obviously already,
very, very edgy, very rebellious. And her dad was like her best friend. The way that she talks about him, she admired him, and he never told her that he was this mega wealthy person.
Family,
so once he passed away, she's now newly discovering that she is a rich heiress, very, very rich heiress. And so, they take her to the mansion. She's like walking around, very quiet in how she's taking everything in. And
then immediately finds a wine cellar.
Right. So they show her the wine cellar, and that was the first time that she speaks. She just grabs a wine bottle and busts it open and just starts guzzling it. And then like it was really funny because she basically they can't find her. She keeps disappearing, but it's really just she sneaks into the wine cellar to get drinks and then drinks herself to sleep.
Yeah.
But she keeps having like nightmares.
Something's creepy
about the house. And, you pretty much discover that there are some secrets around this mansion, and it's this mansion in particular because there's a panel where it goes back to present. This governess is super old, and the guy's like, I'm sorry, are you talking like metaphorically speaking? And she's like, no, this was real. This dark fantasy with monsters is very real in the world of this mansion. So I dug it. I thought it was really interesting. If you're like me and you really like sword and sorcery, dark fantasy, monsters, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah, I really liked the kind of way they're telling the story, like the framing device, right, too, where like she, the governess, you don't know, you're kind of not really clued in 100% on why she's being like interviewed. Like, did these events become famous, or like is it because this guy was a prominent author, Helen's dad, or like because he has one of his books out while he's interviewing her. But I thought it was a really fun framing device that worked really well, because I feel like the kind of narration, because there's lots of narration in all the panels because she's telling the story to the guy who's recording. And I felt like that really set the vibe, like of like it being a story being told.
I love it because it was similar to like a horror device where you're telling a spooky story to someone. And so her recalling the events, instead of just sort of taking you immediately into that time period with those people, this is now it's a dark, stormy night, and I'm going to tell you a ghost story sort of thing.
Got to set the stage, got to introduce the mean butler, and it's like, so... Yeah, I did really like it, and oh my god, Bilquis's art just...
Oh my gosh, it was beautiful.
So gorgeous. So definitely, if you're coming just from Tom's like superhero books, this felt very different. But at the same time, I feel like if you're a fan of Tom's writing, you will enjoy this, because I really dug it. It's not the typical book I would pull off the shelf.
Right.
But I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was unique for sure. So definitely worth a shot.
Yeah, issue number 2 comes out this week. So if that sounds good to you, I know we went heavy at Carrie on issue number 1. Grace over there at the Carrie store has been like, she's like so pumped on
Grace
this one.
Grace is like me.
Yeah, you guys have very similar tastes.
Yeah, we both love the sword and sorcery stuff. I think it's gonna be great. The cliffhanger they leave you on in the first issue is gonna make you want to read the next one.
Yeah.
So.
One I'm really excited about, and I kind of binged to catch up for this episode, because I read the first 2 issues, and they were incredible, but I just got behind.
Yeah.
Avengers Twilight number 5 comes out this week. This is Chip Zdarsky, Daniel Acuna, and oh my god, this is a masterpiece. Like, this is it's gonna be, I think, a classic evergreen story that I'm always going to tell the managers, like, hey, man, you guys have Avengers Twilight on the shelf, because we always need to have that on the shelf, because it's a great book and, like, easy to recommend.
Yeah.
So issue 5 comes out, but they also put issue 1 is reprinting this week as well, and they just have been keeping every single issue in print. So, like, if you missed the first 2 issues, because they went quick. We ordered, like, 500 copies of issue 1, and we sold them.
Wow.
So they've been keeping it in print because it's been super popular, and they started going for money on eBay because people were just trying to find it, because they just wanted to read it.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the pitch, it's basically it's like Dark Knight Returns for Captain America, kind of like dystopian future, very like Blade Runner vibes, but also very like, dystopian kind of fascist government. Basically, it's set in the future. Almost all the superheroes are gone. You're following Captain America. He doesn't have the serum anymore. Just an old guy, old man.
Old man Steve.
Yeah, he's pals with old Luke Cage and Matt Murdock, and they're these kind of old guys, and they're very grumpy about the way the world has become.
Right.
But it's not just because technology's advanced. They're like, I miss the old days.
Right.
It's like, no, they're like basically like peacekeepers on the streets, and like Iron Man tech, like beating people if you're out past curfew. There's curfews. You can't take photo or videos, like, kind of tying into some political stuff in the real world. But like if you're found like videotaping anything, you can go to jail. Like, basically you can be jailed for anything. And so, and there's no more, basically superheroes are outlawed. So there's like a few superheroes left that are like sanctioned and work directly for the US government, a new Avengers team. But otherwise, pretty much everyone else is gone. And you kind of get revealed in that first issue that part of the pitch is that there was this massive, it's called H-Day, where like basically the heroes they lose. The superheroes lose this big battle with Ultron, and there's a ton of like collateral damage. A lot of like just people get caught in the crossfire and are dying. And so the US government basically like nukes it, and then they're like, listen, you guys are causing more problems. Like, you're causing problems rather than fixing them. So the government's going to take over. And as that's happened, they've kind of started becoming kind of just more fascist. And so obviously Captain America hates fascism.
Yes.
Canonically. Kind of, Cap 1, punching Hitler.
punching Hitler.
So, he's not going to stand for that.
No.
The old guys are not going to stand for that. The art is incredible. Daniel's art is just a freaking treat to look at. Mm-hmm. If you dug Human Target by Tom King with Greg Smallwood's art, it reminds me a lot of that kind of style. And I've never been a Tony Stark fan. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that the foil to Cap, who's been building out all this tech for the government, is Tony's son. Mm. So he's kind of working against Cap. Yeah. So obviously Cap kind of, it's about this underground resistance, and Cap kind of trying to take America back from, we don't really know why America has kind of gone down this path. Mm-hmm. But he wants to basically kind of show, pull the wool from everyone's eyes and kind of show them, like, this is not, what's happening is not okay. Everyone's kind of okay with it. Mm-hmm. And kind of fight back and bring things back to the way they used to be. Yeah. So every issue's been great. You get a lot of, they pull in other characters, other Avengers, where you get to kind of see what they're up to in this, like, dystopian future. Mm-hmm. Like, what would, I don't want to spoil too much, but, like, what would this person be doing? The couple heroes that are left.
Right.
And it's just a really, I just, it when you read it. It's just like, this is going to be a perennial classic. Mm-hmm. So if you like that kind of dystopian vibe, if you like I said, Dark Knight Returns, that kind of story for Batman, this feels very much in that vein, so much that every single issue they homage the first issue for Dark Knight Returns. They do a homage cover because, it has a very similar feel. And Chip Zdarsky's actually going to be signing in Raleigh at GalaxyCon.
Word.
Yeah. So if you've read any of Chip's other work, I feel like it pulls a lot in theme from, like, his early Daredevil run. Mm-hmm. Definitely give it a try. Hopefully, if your shop sold out, these reprints are coming in just in time where you can jump in. And definitely, like, let me know in the comments what you're thinking of it so far, because this is, like, one of the superhero books that has really, like, gripped me in, like, a while like this. And I feel like just a masterclass in, like, storytelling. The art's incredible. And again, you could give this to anyone and they could, because it's out of continuity, right? Like, it's a dystopian future. Right. It's not canon.
Right.
You don't really need to know. You kind of need to know what kind of guy Cap is.
Right.
You need to know the basic archetypes, but anyone could pick this up.
Right. At this point.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the basic,
Cap, Boy Scout.
Yeah. Golden Retriever energy.
Right.
Coming back.
And I feel like Zdarsky does a really good job of capturing the voices of everyone. So yeah, that one was one I really, really, really dug. And then, it was kind of a different take on superheroes, which kind of leads into the next one. Uh-huh. Now, Britni, you a hip-hop head?
Hip-hop head?
That's what we call ourselves. I got that. We're that Triple H club. Hip-hop heads.
I am not well-versed,
no?
But you sound like you are
clearly
all about it.
If I say what kind of hip-hop I like, people would be like, freaking typical.
I definitely have to say I'm a fan of older hip-hop, for sure.
Yeah, me too. But I like a lot of I do like a lot of stuff coming out now. But this is interesting because it is a superhero story that is co-written by a very prominent hip-hop artist, Kid Cudi.
Day and night.
Night. See?
And that's all we got.
We know it. So he's kind of created his own superhero, which is kind of cool because a couple of years ago, The Weeknd, who, embarrassingly, I am a big fan of The Weeknd.
I like The Weeknd.
I feel like it's kind of embarrassing to say. I don't know. I feel like there's, like, stereotypes about, like, people who dig The Weeknd.
Listen, at this point, like, the fact that people give anybody shame for liking anything at this point, just fair. Like what do what makes you happy, man. Well, life's too short.
Well, he put out a comic book that tied into his Starboy release album.
Right.
So kind of cool that Kid Cudi has kind of taken a page from that, and he has created this character, Moon Man. Yeah. And I thought that number one, I didn't know it was going to be an ongoing, but it's like a whole series that kind of ties into music he's released, a whole, like, Moon Man album, which is kind of cool too. Like, having a soundtrack that you can.
Yeah, I definitely thought that. I like it when musicians do this sort of new take on their music where they're like, oh, I'll put something with it, a story with it. And I think that this is really a really cool idea to definitely have a comic about
build out a world almost. Well, this one is from Image Comics. It is co-written by Kyle Higgins, which is really cool. Kyle has been doing the Radiant Black universe, which is like a new take on a new superhero universe that he's writing. He got all his friends to kind of write with him, and it's been awesome. And he wrote great Power Rangers run, I will say so. So he's co-writing it with Kid Cudi, and Marco Licati is the interior artist. And I was surprised. I don't know what I imagined the story was going to be, but it's almost like a take on the Fantastic Four, which I guess is timely.
A little bit, yeah. And it's very. I was surprised at how, even though it's very fantastical, it's very real world, like
grounded,
very
in like
grounded.
Real world problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the pitch basically is you're following the main character. He was on a crew of astronauts who go up into space, all very fantastic. They come back with fantastic powers, very Fantastic Four. But he is, for whatever reason, we haven't been on a manned trip to the moon in a long time, decades. And I think it's riffing on Jeff Bezos, because Jeff Bezos also owns a like space travel company.
Right.
But the son is like he wants to be on the moon. He wants to go on the moon, so he is leading a group of like 4 astronauts, and you're following the main character, who I assume is Moon Man.
Yeah.
He was from NASA, and he was on this crew. And they don't get onto the moon. Something goes wrong on their mission where they have to come back.
Yep.
And they kind of have lost time where they can't really describe what happened up there. And so they come back, and, you find out kind of towards the end of the first issue that, even though it wasn't picked up, they had like this battery of testing, and they all seemed fine. But the main character realizes he has powers and can fly.
Mysterious powers. And it's interesting because in a lot of the panels where his powers are like coming to him, he's like, leave me alone. Like he keeps like something is coming for him almost.
Yeah, and he kind of almost has this like PTSD of like he can't exactly explain or say like what happened out there. So it's almost like he's like blocking what happened out there. He says it's like describes it as lost time. So I know maybe in issue 2 I haven't read this one yet. That's the new one out this week. We might kind of go back and see what happened out there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool, like you said, being grounded, it's set up against a kind of, what's happening on Earth, which is, this Amazon type company that sent them out to space, like employs like 80% of the people or whatever, and people are kind of protesting against the company for just, controlling everything and for doing a lot. So his kid brother is kind of on opposing sides and kind of critical of him for going on that mission,
basically calling him a sellout for not fighting against this billionaire power, this 1%. And he's like, hey, I'm doing what I have to get by.
I put the roof over I bought this house with this money.
You're going through college because of me. It's very grounded in the real world. Also, I think my favorite quote from the first issue that he says is talking about the billionaire son who's trying to make it to the moon, and he's like, I'm sure he's just trying to make it to the moon for a 2-minute video on TikTok. And I was like, oof, that's reality.
But it would be a great TikTok though. I mean, in space, like
flossing.
It would space. Like if we were, we've been posting on TikTok and Instagram to promote the podcast. I feel like if we were doing that from the moon, maybe more listeners.
If only one of us was the son of a billionaire.
I'm working on it. My mom, if I'm trying to set her up with a billionaire. So if there's anyone interested, I can put you into contact.
Same here. My mom needs a billionaire too.
Yeah, right?
Wait, just
listen, if we've got twin billionaires, like a kind of Danny DeVito, Arnold twins moment, can my mom have Arnold?
I love how you set that up, and then you were like, but we're throwing your mom under the bus.
Hey, Danny DeVito's so cool.
My mom loves you, Sienna. How could you?
Listen, you're talking about Danny DeVito like he's not a great option, especially in this universe where he's a billionaire and going to be funding our podcast from the moon.
I have always said, if it doesn't work out the first time, just go for money the second time.
Yeah. That's what I would do for sure. Danny DeVito, great, so funny.
He's great. I do love Danny DeVito.
Not Arrested Development. Oh my God, cancel me for that. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oof. I'm a huge Sunny head.
I love It's Always Sunny.
Well,
you just made a huge mistake. Fake fan.
Which is funny. I thought you were making the joke. That is a quote from Arrested Development, what you just said. I've just made a huge mistake.
Made a terrible mistake. I love Arrested as well.
They're both good. They're both great.
They're both good.
But back to comic books. Not just trying to marry my mom off rich. Again, though, Danny DeVito, a prize.
Listen,
to be sure.
You're telling me as if you didn't say, but my mom needs Arnold though. But at the end of the day,
well, my mom's tall. All right, back to Moon Man. Our producer is saying, please. We only have so much time. But yes, Moon Man. I thought it was a cool take. Like I said, very Fantastic Four vibes, which is in the zeitgeist now because we're bringing back the FF. Mm-hmm. I feel like kind of reminds me of the kind of the modern. Not to say that the OG FFs aren't still modern, because I mean they're within the past 20 years.
Yeah.
But the newer one they did with like Kate Mara and stuff like that with the guy from Chronicle directing, I feel like we were taking a lot from that movie. And like I said, I'm pretty interested to see where it goes, and I think it is a really cool idea. Yeah. And hopefully if you are a Kid Cudi fan and you've never read comics, maybe this could be your entryway. Yeah. You know?
Definitely. Which and that's what I love about concepts like this, is you're sort of bridging the gap between the music world and the comic book world. So if, like you said, if people don't really read comics but they love Kid Cudi, maybe they'll check it out, and then they'll be like, wow, I love comics.
So what you're saying is I should contact Kid Cudi's coming to Raleigh July 11th. I did my research on this podcast. All these notes right here in the margins.
Wow.
It doesn't look like a lot's written, but
there's all I see is art good.
Yes. So. Well, maybe we should stand in the parking lot and hand out Moon Man #1 and get people hooked.
Yeah.
Even though that's months from now.
Kid Cudi,
contact
us. We are glad to promote your comic book at your show.
You heard the day and night that we sang. We're fans.
Anyway.
So those are the big books coming out this week. So if there's one that you want people to pick up, is it, out of all those, is it Helen?
It is. It is for me. It was just it's totally my vibe. If you are like me and you love horror, fantasy, sword and sorcery, all kinds of really cool dark elements, check that out. That's a good one. What about you?
I'm going Avengers Twilight 5. I like in my spare time, I read a lot of superhero stuff, but I've always been like an independent, like an indie fan. So when there's a superhero book that really gets me, I get really excited. Yeah. So for me, definitely, if you have somehow missed Avengers Twilight, maybe because it keeps selling out, like this is your chance. Pick up those reprints. Do not wait for trade. Do not trade wait. We'll get back to that main question, but this one, you want to read it.
Yes.
Read it now. So yeah. Anyway, that I think Avengers Twilight for me, awesome. #5, catch up. And then, we've been doing last week look back.
Right.
I feel like we talked a lot about the big ones in the last episode.
Yes.
So go back to that one.
Go back
if you want to know what came out last week.
Or if you just want to
moved on.
Or if you just want to hear more of our voices.
Yes.
We're happy to also.
But that one, again, X-Men 97, cold open.
Yeah.
Must read that #2. And again, let's kind of try to get Sienna Blaze trending. I think if we can get that trending on, what is it, X?
Uh-huh.
Maybe we can get a movie deal from me. And then maybe we don't need to marry off my mom.
Right.
I get that MCU money.
That's true.
So, just putting it out there.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then we got to talk about what's up for pre-order. So this one was another one you were really like like gushing over. I was like, save it for the pod.
I know. This is another one that is like dark fantasy. And I believe it's called One for Sorrow.
Yes, this is One for Sorrow #1. It is from the newer publishing company Distillery, which is cool because they put these all out in these big oversized format. They're like the same size as DC Black Label magazine size books, and really like high cardstock, paper stock, really nice. And they always get incredible artists on these, so it's awesome to have them in those larger formats, even though they don't fit my short box. I have to go out and buy a magazine box. But you know what? They're great coffee table books. They're great coffee table books because they're so, very conversation pieces.
Yes.
Because they don't fit my short box.
Right.
Which I love.
Anyway, One for Sorrow. Yes, I'm very excited about it. It is, again, we're talking a dark fantasy vibe, but this one has a little bit more of a historical twist to it because it's taking place in 1900 London. Ooh. And there is like a slew of murders happening. They're all very mysterious. Nobody knows who this murderer is, if these murders are connected, if there's a pattern, or if it's just at random.
Kind of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, very Jack the Ripper. But then we're bringing in an element of like a Spring-Heeled Jack sort of cryptid vibe because this killer is, they're calling it like a phantom or a demon because nobody can kill it, nobody can catch it.
Yeah.
And the only hint, the only clue that they left behind was like a plume from a bird, like a feather. And so they call it the magpie. And they're trying to figure out the identity of this killer. So we're getting together like a group, like a ragtag group. There's like a medium.
They've got to be ragtag.
Yeah.
If we're putting a group together, listen, I don't want them like in well put together outfits.
Right.
I want them in rags.
I want them
and I want them playing tag. That's what that's all I ask for.
So yeah, you've got like a Russian medium. You've got like the barmaid who sort of saw some things unfold.
Okay.
And so it's like a group of these people that you would least expect. It's a whodunit, and it's really cool. I'm very excited to read it. I'm excited for it to come out.
Yeah. So this one, I'm excited too. It's written and drawn by Jamie McKelvey, who I don't know that I've read much that Jamie's written. I've read a ton of books that Jamie was the main artist on. He worked a lot with Kieran Gillen back in the day. Obviously did Wicked and Divine and Phonogram, which were two of my like hard seller staff picks. Was always pushing those trades in the stores. So I'm really excited to see a book where he's doing it all, writing and drawing, because I love his art style. If you haven't checked out Wick Div, totally give it a go. But yeah. So I'm very excited to see a book where he's taken like 100% lead on, and that sounds as awesome as this one.
Yeah, it sounds really fun. I cannot wait. It was one of those things where as I'm reading the preview, I'm like, I wish I could actually just read this right now. This sounds really fun.
And you know what? I'm so excited about this book. I'm going to go out and buy a magazine box. You got me.
You got
me. They got me. So that's up for pre-order. Distillery, definitely let your comic shop know they're a newer publisher. They might not be ordering as much for the shelf because it's a little bit, it's like, double size, so it's a little pricier than the average comic, but totally worth it with that, like, the art's gorgeous in all these books, like, top tier talent, and like the paper stock's so nice. It feels like it is worth the money, like you're like, okay, this is worth it.
Yeah.
But because of that, sometimes shops don't order a ton just because it costs a lot. It's a bigger gamble. So before FOC, let your shop know that you want to order this book.
Yeah.
Another one out, TMNT Last Ronin 2 Re-Evolution #2.
New Generation.
Say that twice. Can you say the whole title twice?
New Generation.
That's not it. So TMNT The Last Ronin Re-Evolution. Wait, sorry. See, I screwed it up.
See?
TMNT Last Ronin 2, The Re-Evolution, issue #2.
Woo.
Whew.
That's a lot. But it's exciting.
It's more Last Ronin.
Yeah, it's more Last Ronin.
We just had Ben Bishop, in real time of when we are recording this last weekend, sign at our shops. One of the main artists on Last Ronin. And they just announced today, day of recording that they are working on a live action rated R TMNT movie based off of The Last Ronin.
Okay.
So if you've somehow missed Last Ronin, I mean, it's only been the original Last Ronin has only been the best-selling graphic novel in comics for maybe like the past 3 or 4 years, if we're not counting Dogman and stuff like that. But it's a great kind of grizzled future, almost again kind of like a Dark Knight Returns, but for the turtles. Yeah. So there's one turtle left, and like it's dark, it's edgy.
Yeah.
It's not for kids anymore. This is adult.
Yeah.
But it's also really well done. I mean, it's co-written by Kevin Eastman, one of the creators of Turtles. I think the story was kind of laid together with Peter Laird, and co-written by Tom Waltz, who is a longtime Turtles writer.
Yeah.
But TMNT Last Ronin 2, The Re-Evolution, obviously it's a sequel to the original. So before this they did a prequel that was kind of the Lost Years, and this is following up that main storyline. So they're also working on a video game.
Nice.
Yeah. So Last Ronin's got some legs.
Yeah.
If you haven't been sold on Last Ronin, and you've thought about it, and perfect timing because we're gonna have Eastman out again.
We sure are, and Ben Bishop.
Where?
At NC Comic-Con this November 9th and 10th in downtown Durham, North Carolina, at the Durham Convention Center. So we are going to have Kevin Eastman. We are going to have Ben Bishop.
Most importantly, we'll be there.
Most importantly,
we'll be signing.
We'll be signing. We'll have quite a few panels. We'll have a live stream.
Live podcast. Fan meetup.
Yeah. This is us pitching it to our Alan, who runs everything right now in real time.
So just
set us up.
Let us know. We would like a booth.
We would like a booth.
A recording booth.
Yes.
But anyway, that was your obligated commercial.
It was, yes, but all in all, please come check out NC Comic-Con if you like, and especially if you like turtles.
And it's gonna be Turtle Mania, and Last Ronin. I've been having a lot of fun with the sequel. I am not a huge turtle fan. I'm not a hero of the half shell. But when we had Kevin Eastman back a few years ago, I read a lot of the original run that he did, and I was like, oh my god, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And so I gave Last Ronin a look when it came out, just because I was like, this is one of the most popular books in the store. I got to read it, right? And I really dug it. So yeah, if you're a Turtles fan, or just kind of want that kind of grizzled, future, like a hero who's seen it all and he's seen some shit.
Yeah. Cowabunga, but make it edgy.
Yeah. There's no pizza in this future, man.
No pizza.
No toppings at all. Just, you have one topping, and it's sardines. You know what? You can have 2 toppings. We can let you put pineapple on that sardine pizza, but that's it. You can't have pineapple by itself. You can't have pineapple and bacon. This is not Hawaiian. This is the future.
Yeah.
Sardines. No, what is it? Anchovies.
Anchovies.
You know what? Anchovies, or we'll let you have sardines too if you were all in on that. You're like, oh, okay.
Anchovies, pineapple, and the blood of our enemies.
And sardines. So that's kind of future Last Ronin's delivering.
Oh my gosh.
And then the last one I gotta plug. We've talked. We haven't really talked a ton about the Ultimate line, which is crazy because this is the Ultimate Comics podcast.
I know.
But exploded in popularity. Ultimate Spider-Man has been so good. Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men. The whole Ultimate line has been like a whole jolt of energy for Marvel fans. Like, just all these great new series dropping. So now we got to, of course, for reliving the ultimate line of our youth, we need an Ultimates line. So this is the FOC date for the Ultimates #1, part of Jonathan Hickman's kind of universe he's constructing with all these great other creators. And this one's written by Deniz Camp with art by Juan Frigeri. And this is basically like, the Ultimates. It's like your Avengers book in the Ultimate universe. So, till now, all the books have been very separate and kind of in their own world and not really interacting. And the Ultimates #1 will kind of give you more of, it's your team book. So I'm really excited about this because I've been digging all the Ultimate books, and not just because of our name.
Well,
so there's a little bit more to it than that. But I enjoy in retailer forums seeing people say, I love all these Ultimate comics. I'm like, So you love me, huh? How much? So a lot of good books.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, so back to the question.
We finally come back.
We remembered.
Yeah.
How to collect. And I feel like we kind of answered it before.
We did. I feel like that's what we do every podcast. We sort of answer it early, and then we're like, all right.
And then we come back to it, and we're like, and we didn't really talk about it at all throughout this.
No, we have not been talking about singles or trades.
Singles in your area. That could be a advertisement on the side of our YouTube going on right now.
You know what could also be an advertisement?
Hot singles in your what?
Hot trades in your area.
Hot trades in your yeah. Listen, there might be hot singles in your area. I'm clicking it if it's a billionaire man that looks like Arnold. I'm like, not for me.
But not for me.
Not for me though. But yeah, I think I understand the impulse to trade wait and binge, right? I feel like the other types of media like TV and Netflix have kind of trained people to really want to enjoy their media like that, right? Mm-hmm. But I really do. If you're a typical trade waiter, I challenge you to go into your comic shop and find one book that you can pick up in singles, because one, helps shops a lot to have that weekly foot traffic, but really I think you're missing out. And maybe this is just me, but I love the atmosphere. I love the ritual. I think that's why a lot of people love collecting. Like I love bumping into my microphone. Is kind of like the ritual nature of it. Like going into the comic shop every week, and it's like this fun thing you get to do. It's kind of like why I go to the same coffee shop every morning. You know, I got my crew. Yeah. So that's kind of Ultimate Comics. You have the crew of like, there's different staff in the morning and the evening. You might go based on the staff. You might have a good rapport with them. You get to talk about your books. You get to talk about the last Ronin movie news. You get to talk about, I was listening to the Ultimate Comics podcast, and I really need to debrief with someone. And do that in a shop that's not run by us, because that would be very funny.
Debrief/trauma dump.
Yeah,
I gotta shed this.
Hopefully we have some viewers that are far away who are gonna go into their shop on Wednesday and be like, so I was listening to the Ultimate Comics podcast.
Please do.
They're like, ugh. I know that. Sienna? Oof. No. No. But yeah, I think it really depends on how you like to read, right?
Right. And I as a person who likes to binge/trade wait, I completely agree with you that you're missing out on the experience.
And what have you thought? So you've been reading more in singles for the podcast.
Yes.
Has that kind of changed your mind at all, or have you enjoyed reading them that way, or are you like, nah? And you can tell me the truth. So you can tell the listeners the truth.
This is sort of a double-edged sword, because I have been enjoying reading all of these new titles that I have never read before. I've been discovering new titles, and I've been getting really excited at the same time. Though you're giving me issue number 1, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, but that cliffhanger, Sienna.
That's how we get you. That's why you got to come back and set up. Where's your open your pull box already? Let's go.
I need to at this point.
So you can get those number 2s, and yeah. So yeah. If you haven't tried reading a monthly, like I said, you never know if you like it until you give it a go. So find a series you want to check out. It's also, when we're talking about cost effective, it's technically, usually it's a little bit cheaper in trade. Yeah. Just than if you add up every single issue all together. Usually the trade is a little bit cheaper. But if you're just trying something, you don't want to spend $20 on a graphic novel that you might not like.
That's true.
Like a $3.99 first issue is a good way to check out something, give it a whirl, and you can always not come back for number 2 if you didn't dig it.
I completely agree with that. I think that it's a waste to spend so much money on something that you may or may not like. Whereas
cup of coffee gives you like the enjoyment of coming into the shop.
Exactly. The experience.
And if you're going to Starbucks, you get 2 comics for a cup of coffee these days.
Very true. and you dip your toe in for, testing out different stories and seeing what sticks. So I think it could be a combination of both,
Yeah. And, obviously all these comics are going to be worth way more. They're going to pay for your kids' tuition. like better than the stock market. Every single comic can go up in value. And, listen, look like right here. X-Men 97 number 2. Mm-hmm. If you're trade waiting, when Sienna Blaze is cast and I am cast as Sienna Blaze, and we get that in the MCU, you're going to want, not her first appearance, just when she is in this comic, but maybe that they base the story off of this.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then this will be worth double.
I just want to say
$8
to those of you who are listening as a podcast and not actually seeing this, Sienna went full Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny with trying to go on the cork board.
I am excited.
Conspiracies.
But sometimes it's like some people really view comics in the lane of investing, and maybe we could talk about that in a future episode.
Yeah.
I flipped comics and in my time. But for me, that's more like a bonus. Like if I have something that ends up being worth more money and it's not, I don't have a sentimental attachment to it, and maybe I can make $10, that's cool. But that's not why I read them in singles. But you never know. You're reading a number 1. They announced the man's best live action movie, and you can sell that sucker on eBay for $19.99 plus $4.99 shipping, maybe. So there's another little bonus for single issues. Can't do that with a trade.
Oh man. Well, good episode.
Great one. Wait, now we didn't do this last episode. If they enjoyed this, if they enjoyed us, where can they see us aside from next Monday, the Monday after this one when I'm talking in the future?
Right. Tuesday.
Well, what's Tuesday?
I have no idea what direction we're going with this, but I will go ahead and just start listing things off until they stick. Tuesdays, we have a live show.
Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can watch it. We'll be live on YouTube, and we're live on the Ultimate Comics Live Show Facebook page.
Yeah, and if you thought we were unhinged here, boy, do I have news for you.
Oh, my God.
We are hopped up on caffeine and sugar.
What's your go-to? Your C4?
Yeah, C4.
I'm usually a bang man. Bang boy, they call us. That's the official name. Or Red Bull lately. Because bangs, they're hard to find sometimes in the wild these days. Because they
and I feel
declared
like
bankruptcy.
They are a rocket
bankruptcy.
Ship. Oh man. Anyway,
but it's what is it? It's a 3-hour comic book sale. So we're selling a lot of keys, a lot of silver, Bronze Age. We do the new books of the week, the variants and ratios, and I sold just based on the name, I sold 20 copies of this bad boy on the Tuesday. You missed it, so you're gonna have to believe me. But people were like, "Oh, Sienna Blaze." I was like, "You gotta buy it." So it's a lot of fun. It's like a 3-hour show. We're hanging out. We're goofing off. It's very less filtered than this. And if you are a super fan and you want us to read your comment, aside from you can email us at podcast@ultimatecomics.com. We put that in the description, but you can get that instant gratification of the live response to your comment.
Right.
If it's a normal one. We might ignore it if it's not. So keep it normal.
Yeah, keep it as normal as you can.
But it's a lot of fun. So if you like to collect books like me, you go on back issue hunts or things like that, or you want, it's a great way to find comics that you normally wouldn't pick up. Check us out Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can hang out here if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, listen, the YouTube app, just a couple swipes away. Or on the Ultimate Comics Live Show Facebook page.
Yeah. And where else were you going with this?
No, that was it. That was
live show. That's
live show.
Okay,
that was it.
Great,
Unless you want to give them your address.
No, not going to dox ourselves.
We're going to do that maybe in future episodes. If you have to watch all of them. If we get to episode 100, maybe.
No, it's never going to happen.
Get that Patreon going. Maybe that's a tier. Like $1,000.
Wow. Just 1,000? You dox yourself for $1,000, Sienna?
Maybe I need a little more. Listen, if you're a billionaire who can get me and my mom to the moon.
Who specifically looks like Arnold.
Not Danny. You know what? I'd take Danny. Just to be friends. If we could have a platonic relationship.
Right?
You're missing out. Anyway, should we end it?
We should.
What do we usually say to end it? Bye.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you are on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching us on Spotify.
Or Apple Podcasts
now. And don't forget to comment and let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about next time.